I've been thinking about, how to approach this supposedly a public meeting, but it feels more like a family gathering, an extended family gathering. I see so many faces here whom I've known for so long. So I'm going to eschew formalities, in this and just talk to you. And share my thoughts with you about how I think about Indo-US relations. And perhaps in the question and answer period we can interact much more readily. How should we think about this? Most of us who have been here, this is an important subject for us. You think about it. Many of you are very knowledgeable about this in different aspects of it. I thought that I would focus more on the strategic dimensions, which are less well known other than cooperation on terrorism and stuff like that. So I'll get to that. That's going to be the kind of the heart of what I want to tell you about. But let me frame that in the proper context. So when we think about Indo-US relations, we're thinking about three broad dimensions of it. One is, how does India fit into the US scheme of things? That is, the US attempt to build a post-Cold War security architecture, economic architecture. Where does India fit into that? The second dimension of this is, well, for India, from the Indian perspective, where does the US fit into its own perspective on the world, which is shaped by how India thinks about itself and its role in the region and its role in the extended region. And I'll come to that in a moment. The third important aspect of Indo-US relations are the tectonic shifts that have taken place in international affairs. We are aware of most of them. But I would suggest to you that maybe one way to think about that, maybe we can move this. I don't know how it's, go to the third one. Frame, yes. Done this, yeah, that's good. I would suggest to you that there are some things, if they had not happened, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about Indo-US relations. One is, had the economic reforms not taken place in 1991, transforming India, dismantling the welfare state, or shall we say the state-led command economy, and initiating pro-market kind of reforms within India. And then what happened subsequently to that, which has transformed India, its role in the region and its role in the international economy, we wouldn't be talking about this. Had the Cold War not collapsed, we wouldn't be talking about that. And that doesn't take too much thought. I mean, we understand what that means. That is, the bipolar division of the world ended and it became a situation of the flux. Of course, the one remaining great power was United States. So everybody was concerned, how do we relate to United States? So Indo-US relations became a very important part. But so also, India was cast adrift, searching for an anchor for its future, searching for an anchor for its foreign policy, searching for an anchor for its economic policy, and also reconstituting its entire domestic politics from within, which is from moving from a Congress-dominated one-party system to a coalition politics. This is a change of enormous proportions that we take for granted as Indians because we sort of read India abroad and we sort of keep up with it, and we are so caught up in the everyday goings on of what goes on within India that we sort of don't see, we don't stand back and take a longer overview. But the passing of the Congress from the scene as a single dominant party and the emergence of coalition politics is indeed an incredible transformation that is happening. So what is happening in 1991 is economic transformation, political transformation, and foreign policy transformation. This is three-dimensional change which India has to accomplish within a democratic framework, and it did that. So the point is that we are therefore looking at a situation that is of enormous importance in how we think about the future and where it's likely to go. So much about the Cold War. I would also therefore say that the US itself was searching for a way to make sense of the new world into which it was suddenly thrust. The US requires a way to define a map of threats and risks and opportunities. What were the risks and opportunities? We have had several kind of suggestions about that. The scholars have been very busy writing about the clash of civilization and the Islamic world versus the democratic world, and that of course was refuted, was rejected by a lot of people. New architecture, rise of China, it's a shift of enormous proportion in terms of economy from the west to the east, and what does that imply and how does that affect the United States' position as a hegemonic power in the world, and where does India fit into all this? So had that not happened, had United States itself not looking for a way to make sense of the post-Cold War world and think about the ways in which India could play a role, we would not be sitting here talking about that today. Determinants of global power, we don't often talk about that, but the way in which power itself is defined today, it's not defined by military power. It is defined by economic power. It's defined by ability, and here I stress, ability to shape the discourse, international discourse. That is, what are we going to talk about? What is important in international affairs? Who decides that? But so far the Europeans have been deciding that, and Europeans and the United States have been deciding that. How does the United States keep its hegemonic importance in shaping the dialogue of the future? Now, I want to tell you that this is of great importance. We must say, okay, ideology, come and go. Look at realpolitik, that's what's important. No, I think that what is important is to look at the way in which the future dialogue of power and politics is shaped and who shapes it. So the point is that there has been a shift away about how we measure power, away from military power to ideological power, or shall we say power of ideas. Now that once again makes India very important, because if India has anything, it has got the power of ideas. And the power of ideas plays a very important role in the world of tomorrow. And then the rest, you all know, markets, global markets and trade and environment and all those issues. So had these two countries not had a determining role, we would not have been sitting here talking about Indo-US relations. There are two views. Can we go to the next one? Yeah, fine. Two views, broad views about India. There are people who are very euphoric about Indo-US relations. Everything is okay and it's going to just go exponentially, it's just going to grow. We can only do better, and this is tied with how one views India and how one views India's rise as a potentially great power. Not there yet, but potentially great power, with almost claims to a great power status. So the two propositions are interrelated. The proposition that India is a rising power and the proposition that it is going to all go well between India and United States are taken sort of together. That is a euphoric view, and I must say much of our diasporic community has been kind of into that camp, at least the people that I've talked to. But if you go to India, you have a very different perspective. The inside-out perspective on Indo-US relations, on the rise of India, is very divisive. It's very divided. There are a lot of people who took a very dim view about the rise of India. They said, okay, the capitalist market has grown and there's a middle class, and yes, GNP has grown and we have got more weapons and so on and so forth, but look at the number of poor who are still there, and issues of poverty and issues of number of other weaknesses within the Indian body politic. So they said the rise of India is much overly kind of exaggerated issue, and therefore if the United States is looking for a powerful, important, influential, rising economy and India doesn't make it, no, all this is not going to work out. Okay, so that's one point of view. The other people, sort of old-fashioned, throw back to the Cold War era, say that, well, we have to be very careful about how we forge a relationship with the United States, because United States is a hegemonic power and that might compromise our sovereign autonomy. So there is desire to protect India's independence, despite the fact that we are forging a very important relationship with it. That is one part of the gloom and doom kind of scenario. The other part of the gloom and doom scenario comes from the assessment of how India is going to pan out in terms of its economy and in terms of its poverty, the ability, the desire to balance between the two. So those are the other. Shall we go to the other thing? Okay. Now, if you look at very quickly this, because I don't want to bore you with the history of it, no history, no, just very quick, 1, 2, 3. 4, I would say about more or less about 4 phases as I see post-Cold War between India and United States. The first phase was, as I said, India cast adrift. There is no particular direction to where India is going. In fact, India is so bogged down with the balance of payment problems in 1991 that it has sort of initiated reforms. Nobody knows whether this is going to stabilize the economy or not. What's going to happen? What does that mean? Soviet Union is gone. It's been our long time ally and the source of weapons for us. What is going to happen? So really India is cast adrift. There is no particular direction. United States itself is searching for it. This is the first period, is that period of total ambivalence, ambiguity, no particular direction. This is a period of VP Singh, early period of Rao. Nobody quite knows, what's going to happen. But soon after, as you know, that the Congress, the Rao government lived through the entire 5 years of its term. We have therefore then a kind of it's stabilizing despite the coalition government. It's a minority party. Congress is into a minority, unusual role for the Congress, but it has held the coalition. So India might stabilize. There is a reassessment. Now, so if you look at the second period, which is a period of early Clinton period, if you are somebody like me who is looking at statements and looking at reports and looking at assessment of State Department and so on, the emphasis is on 2 things: non-proliferation. The only thing that India was worried, the Clinton administration was worried about, that India should not develop missile technology and should not go and develop a bomb. In fact, there was so much pressure on Rao that he had to suspend the scheduled tests for the missiles as well as the nuclear test. And he did that because we were in very uncertain period. So we have that period. We cross that, the nuclear tests are taken place, so we enter into a third period where suddenly the reforms have caught on, economy is expanding. Lo and behold, this is nobody expected. There is this diverse, chaotic country which is going through coalition politics after coalitions are coming and going, and it's just, Americans don't know how to think about it. They have very little patience with India's diversity and chaotic situation. So they look at it and they say, we don't know what to do with this, but the only thing that bothers us about this is that they've got nuclear power. So we have to do something. So once again, the entire first and almost second period of the Clinton administration was focused on preventing India from growing nuclear. The Bajpayee period, once the bomb is exploded, the genie is out of the bottle. So now the question is, you have to do something about it. So the Bush period, we come to a period when things are stabilizing, economy is growing, there is a new appreciation for the first time in the United States, but that appreciation is come on the back of economic growth and explosion of nuclear weapons by India, the tests. So these 2 things suddenly wake up the Americans and say, no, we've got to pay attention to this country. This is 1 billion people, its economy is going very fast, it is a nuclear power, and it is a formidable conventional power. Please remember, in 1991, there were already people who were talking about India as a great regionally